The effects of racism are still alive today. Nobody wants a handout. Nobody wants a give me. I mean, you have some individuals that want that, but as a whole, as a black man, I don't want that. I just want white people to recognize that, hey, you know what? There was racism, and it still affects the condition of the black man today.
I know that, walking down the street, on the people trail, being called the N-word, or getting food thrown at me and my sister, or even my dad going on bike rides, being called the N-word out from the street. I would also say not being served at restaurants, kind of being waited out to say, oh, they'll leave. I think also not being believed, being gaslit into thinking that maybe, we're making things up in our head and things aren't as bad as we say they are. Yeah.
When talking about systems that discriminate or are based on racism, it'll be any kind of system, because every system has been created by white people to address white people's problems.
When people would make comments, like for me as an Asian, I would hear comments about my eyes, or I would hear derogatory terms like chink and other things. And these kinds of comments, while may not seem much, and I feel like I usually try to ignore them, because I usually try to push aside negative comments because that's what I was taught to do. I feel like these kind of comments, they still do affect me, because they hurt my self-confidence and the way I view myself, because I start to view myself as different from other people, and I start to think that maybe I'm not good enough, I'm not as good as my friends, or I can't do the same things that they do. This affects me, I think, personally, and in school and out of school as well. So
I have received that direct act of racism, and at a systematic level, it's again the not feeling safe around police officers, because you don't see some kind of representation. You see that when I've been stopped for a traffic violation, when I try to reach out for my driver's license and all of that, it's I'm very nervous because they're holding on to their taser or their gun, and I'm just trying to reach out for what they asked me to reach out. So,
nationally, of course, there's a large struggle, and I think that's also reflected in our community, specifically in Columbus. I think we put blinders on, and we have our preconceived notions of each other, and that causes us not to listen specifically to marginalized groups in our struggles, and it's hard to bridge that gap when we're not listened to.
I think Columbus actually has a very diverse population, and I think over time, as our minority populations continue to grow in Columbus, these kinds of race relations will get better, as minorities will start to feel like they're not alone, and there are people like them sharing similar experiences with them and having people to relate to, and I think that will be a good thing.
I'm really ready to see action beyond just something that will satisfy the people at the top. I think there are people who want to see more action, but they're not seeing it. And I wonder if that's because they haven't had the opportunity to be involved in that action. Like maybe we're calling on the same groups of people to say, oh, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z to improve relations, and we're gonna include these certain marginalized groups that meet a certain standard. So maybe they're of a higher class, they might still be Black, but they're of a higher class, and we include them in a lot of things. But what about poor white people? What about disabled people of any race? What about, any marginalized group that isn't of a certain class? And that's what I mean about that intersectionality. How someone you might be Black, but you're still a man. But as a Black woman, I have that intersection. And they don't feel seen. And that's a problem.
We all have one common interest. We're human. And for humans to survive, and not only survive, for humans to thrive, we need to remember that. Because as soon as we lose that, then the house of cards will come tumbling down, right? And we won't have a solid foundation. Understanding that we are all human is our solid foundation, and we'll be able to build up from there. But without that, whatever we build won't be stable and will become falling down.